Today is Chav Iyar Tashin Sarik Test, Shir Kwali of Rav Gavni, Parshas Behar and Bechukosai.
Right, so we're turning to Parsha Behar, and we're going to deal with the Se'in and the mitzvahs Shemitah, which occurs at the beginning of the Parsha. However, we'll pay special attention to chapter Kof Hei, chapter Kof Hei, Pasuk Yutes and Kof. And so the Torah promises that as a result, someone else to come in late, how to make a gun son of tumult. The Torah promises that as a result of the kiyum of the mitzvah of Shmitas Karka, so the Torah says, "V'nosno ha'oretz piryo," that the land will give its fruit. Ve'achaltem la'seiva, and you will eat to great satisfaction. Ve'yoshavtem yer lebetach aleha, and you will sit with safety on the land. And so Rashi says that what does it mean that you'll sit in safety? Shalei tidagu mishnas patzeres, you'll never have to worry about famine. And then he said, V'achaltem l'seiva af b'teicha me'ayim tehei b'ei bracha. In other words, that even if you don't eat a great deal, but once it goes into your digestion system, then you will feel full and satisfied from the eating. Now earlier, a little bit earlier in the Parsha, when we get to the Shemitah, then Rashi says that the Torah also promises that in the reward of the mitzvah Shemitah and Yovel, that it's also written V'yoshavtem levetach, V'yoshavtem ala oretz levetach, and over there Rashi says that be'ovein Shemitah v'Yovel, that through the iniquity of not keeping the Shemitah and the Yovel, then Golus Ba'al Oret and Goylim Yisrael mi Artzon, and Rachmanin Tzlan, there occurs the union of Golet. And we see that brought down in this week's Perek, Pirkei Avos, Perek Hei, which we learned this Shabbos, that in the Mishnah Tes, in Perek Hei, not far from the beginning, it's written over there that Golus Ba'al Eilon al Aveda Zorah, al Gilei Arayas, al Shvichas Domim. I saw this morning, I was traveling with my taxi in Bnei Brak. We turned in the street and there was a woman driver who was standing on the wrong side of the street, mamish on the other side of the road from which she was supposed to be. And she was going in reverse, not knowing where the heck she was going. And she was chatting away with great, I don't know what to call it, on a telephone. So that's the way these phones conquered the whole of human existence. She's prepared to put herself and other human beings into a terrible sakona. those few moments of precious conversation on that ridiculous thing called a telephone. So the Mishnah says over there that Golos Bali Elam, Golos comes into the world through the three famous, when I say famous or infamous, Averas, which we're told that they are the shurish of Golos. The Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos that the Bayis Rishon was destroyed because of Avodah Zorah, Gilui Arayos, and Shvichas Domim. So the Mishnah says that Golos Bali Elam al Avodah Zorah, al Gilui Arayos, al Shvichas Domim, al Shmitas Ha'or. And it adds the inyan of Shmita, that not keeping the inyan of Shmitas Ha'oretz brings to the inyan of Golos. So, and that's what Rashi says over there, V'yoshaftem ha'oretz levetach, and Rashi writes clearly, Ba'ovin ha'shmitas goylim Yisrael mi'atzom. So we see that the inyan of Shmita is nogeya ad k'dikach, that it's the shurish of whole Golos. They state that clear in Rashi, and then later on in Behar Bechukosai, early on in the Teichachah, where it's written over there, different inyanim when they get to the Golos, and it's written that Oz Tilte Ha'oretz Shabsei Seya. Then once you've gone into Golos, then the land will want back its Shabboses that you didn't give it, the Hainu, the Inyan, and the Shmitas, and the Yevleis. Rashi brings down over there, a whole cheshbon how the 70 years of the Golos in Bavel, the first Golos, and from Bayis Rishon in Bavel was keneged 10 Shmitais that they didn't keep, and one Yovel with a ganze Aricha. What Rashi brings over there, that it was B'diuk Zeh keneged Zeh, because they didn't keep the Inyan HaShmita. That's what was Goyrem, the Golos in Bavel and the Churban of the Bayis Rishon, Bayis Shloimeh. So we see that the Inyan Shmita is very nogeya to the Kiyum of the whole Jewish people, al Eretz Yisrael, and the Lashon of the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos is that Golos Bali Olam. It's mashma that it can even cause a broader inyan in Golos, not lav dafki Eretz Yisrael, or Kol Ha'olam Kulei, because it's written Golos Bali Olam. Well, from them is mashma that it has a more klolistic effect, even though the inyan from Shmita is only noyeg by Eretz Yisrael, not b'chutz l'oretz. And Kosh came for Kal V'chema, the Yovel, or the Yovel's only noyeg, b'zman shekol yeshveya aleha. And the truth of the matter is, the most poskim hold that when they get to the Shmita, that it's only noyeg midoyraisa mamish. But nowadays, all of great poskim hold, all the Rishonim v'achreinim, that we do keep don't we? You haven't got a very good record about what to grin, so don't grin, okay? It's, all the poskim hold that we keep Shmita nowadays midorabbana, not mamish midoraisa, but nonetheless, we see that the Bittul Shmitas, that was Goyrem needing for Golos Le'ila. Like we see nowadays, Mufurish, B'Ineinu, we see that everything which is Nogeya in Eretz Yisrael, and everything which happens in Eretz Yisrael, is Nogeya to the whole world. And if anybody interferes with the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, then he's Goyrem Chores to the whole world, Kol Ha'olam Kulei. And we see that the so-called American president that started off with all the Chores against Eretz Yisrael, with Gush Katif, and then afterwards the so-called Indianapolis, or what it was, meeting. I mean, ever since then, America's been in a Yerida's ploim, Shaloi Hoya, Bistoria, Yerida Kazu. until I spoke to a guy the other night, and he said he's making parnasa in law from Nebuch, all the people who have been thrown out on the street from their houses, with the number of thousands in America of people being cast out of their houses is growing and growing day by day. And so the lawyers are making a lot of parnasa out of people trying to claim against the government, the banks and the other great mortgage companies, etc., as to how to keep themselves under their rules. And all it immediately began 5 or 6 days after the so-called Indianapolis, or whatever it was, remnant of Siltas, a meeting. And it's heilig, it says heilig, v'goreya, v'neifel, b'emek ha'toheim. And so it is in England and oid mekaymes. So we see that Golos Bali Elam Al Eretz Yisrael. So where does it all start? Rachmanin Itlan, Kumen Shigein Yidden, and they say you don't need to keep the Shemitah nowadays, it's an old-fashioned Zach. Rachmanin Itlan. Therefore, the Mishnah says clearly that Al Shemitah Sa'oretz, Golos Bali Elam. Therefore, we see then that the Inyan from Shemitah is Nokeya in the whole bris between the Eibishter, the whole covenant of the Eibishter with the Jewish people, when they get to Eretz Yisrael and Beklau, it's Nokeya to the whole world. So also the Shaila, was it the Inyan Ad K'dei Kach in the Inyan from Shemitah? So comes along the Ramban at the beginning of the Parsha, Bariches, and other great Meforshim similar to him, other great codifiers of the mitzvahs, and they say that the Inyan from Shemitah is Nogeya, and it indicates the whole, what you might call, Seder of the world, and the whole way that the Eibishter based the functioning of the world on periods of 7. In other words, that there's 6 days, and then there's Shabbos, and then there's 6 years, and then there's a Shemitah, and then there's 7 Shemitahs, and then there's a Yovel. And we see that the Gemara brings them in Sekta Sanhedrin, where the Gemara says that Shit Alfei Shnin, Have Almer, that there's 6,000 years of the world, and then Bechad Charu, and then it's going to be 1 year, which is going to be a change, and almost like a collapse of the whole world, and another type of world altogether. Come over dort in the Gemara. What does it the Inyan from the Elef Hashvi? What does it this man was l'chol hadayis? It'll be this man for Tchias Hameis, and this man at the Geula v'chulu. So we see then that the whole world functions around 6 and 1, or Lefi Omim, it's a period of 7 and then 8, isn't it? Well, I'm pleased to see that we agree on that. Because we don't necessarily agree on everything. It's the Inyan of there's 7 and then there's 1. And that's what we see with the Omer. We're now counting 7 weeks of the Omer, and then immediately after that is the Inyan Shavuos, well, that's already on the beginning of the 8th, as it were. It's like the first day of the 8th week. It's like the Inyan Hashmini. We're saying kind of mochim now to go into the whole difference between the 6th and 7 and 7 and 8. Of the Lefid Ramban, they're all connected and they're all basically the same basic pattern. It's just that one is a slight aliyah like the other. And so the Ramban goes in further, and he said that that's indicatory the whole belief in the Inyan Geula, that after the 6,000 years there'll be the Geula, there'll be a change in the whole world. A ganze Riches in the Ramban. And then he adds by saying that that's why it is that the Shemitah is an Ogeya to the bris with Eretz Yisrael, and that Ba'oven HaShemitah is the Goylim Me'aret. And he says, because if you don't keep the Shemitah, and it's a simile, you don't have a munah in the ganze Inyan from what he calls Chidush Biyusha Olam, that the world was created, Yesh Mi Ayin by the Rebishter. And since it was all created, Yesh Mi Ayin by the Rebishter, then he runs it, Lefi Minhoge, Kebiyusha Hu, was it the Rinyan Kach Shonim, Kach Yomim, and there's a Shabbos, and then there's a Shabbos in the Shmitas, and then there's a Shabbos when you get to the Yovel V'chulu. As Mamela says the Ramban, that if you don't believe and you don't keep the Shemitah, then it's a sign you don't believe in the whole Seder and the whole union of the creation of the world. And the far people who are Pogea in the Shemitah are Pogim Kilo and the Etzem Amuna in the union from Brias Oilam. That is what the Ramban, and therefore he said it's such a serious matter that can be Goylim Minha Naor. And it is written in other great Meforshim, as I said, many of them make a similar cheshbon. Comes along the Kli Yokka, well, he's one of the very early Meforshim that's brought down here in the, when I say very early, I mean historically he's more than the Stam Achreinim. The Kli Yokka he's brought down B'chol HaChumoshim with the bring the Roch HaMeforshim, and he was a contemporary with the Maral Miprag, the Kli Yokka. His name was Beinu Ephraim Shloima, I think it was Margolius or something like that was his surname, and he lived in Prague at the same time that the Maral, not the Maral, how do you call him, the Shloh Kodesh. The Shloh Kodesh was in Amsterdam and in Prague, and then he was Eila to Eretz Yisrael, and he's buried in Tveria. And so the Kli Yokka, he was like a darshan. The Shloh was more like the Rov and the Pesach and the Manik, and he was like a darshan. He used to make these droshes, and they're considered very amazing droshes. And he wrote a sefer, a lot of these droshes called the Eila L'Sefrayim. It's a very famous sefer. And then he wrote a Pirush al Kol HaTorah later in his life, and it's called the Kli Yokka. So the Kli Yokka, he tightens against the Ramban and this whole inyan of understanding the Shemitah by even Kozer, because he says that it's a very beautiful cheshbon. All these inyanim are right. There are these periods of 6 and 7. But to say that that's what we have to be ikar, what is the bikar, what you might call tam, the basis for the meaning of Shemitah, he said it's hard to say that because all those inyonim are nirmas in the inyan of Shabbos, ordinary Shabbos, inverted commas, an ordinary Shabbos, as B'lavachi, kol inyonim el, first got 6 days, and then you have 7, and then we say in the Rachamanu, Yan Chelenu, Yom Shekulu Shabbos, U'Menucha L'Chayim, Olamim, that the inyan from Shabbos is also Maramas to Liyotzid Lova, and the Menucha from Shabbos, and the Tainuk on Shabbos, or this is Be'ain, the Menucha, how it's going to be, Bisman, B'yas HaMashiach, V'achreise, the Menucha L'Chayim, and the inyan from Tchiyas HaMeishim. So the Kli Yokka tightness that you don't really need all these other inyanim. It's true that they double and they add further inyanim. Oh, but I say that's the whole basis of the inyan from Shemitah, kosher loimakei. And the far he says the whole inyan from Shemitah is another inyan altogether. And on that inyan we're going to base ourselves in this class. And he says that the inyan from Shemitah is to be Koveya and Mashrish in the Chaye HaOdam, the inyan from Amunah, and especially the inyan from Bitochen. Was the inyan from Bitochen trust in the Eibishter? Was something that's begolui, and you see that it's already there, and you see that the Eibishter has already helped you. For Chuli, then it's not so necessary the inyan from Bitochen. You can rely on that even for Amunah, and even in Amunah there's different madreigas. Although Bitochen is more in Azak, what you don't see, La'esh Ator, what is the Indian, or what is going to be the tashlum of that Indian, and you say, I trust in the Eibishter, and I have mamish full verlassen, how do you say, I have full reliance on him that he will do it. And that's the Indian, the basis of bitachon, that the mensch has a certainty within himself that sicher the Eibishter wird machen good. In other words, not just that the Eibishter will make in a way he understands, but the Eibishter will make in a way that it'll be teiv ani glo. That's the Indian from bitachon. And therefore the Indian from bitachon is connected with when the mensch doesn't see it, but he's sure that it's going to be. So I mean, what is he so sure it's going to be? What does he know? So he knows the way he would want it to be, and he's batuach, shekain yoku. That is what the Eibishter will make. So the Union from Shemitah, it comes the 6th year, and there's already certain laws of the Shemitah begin applying from what we call Tosafos. Yeah, Tosafos Shemitah, Tosafos Hashmatas HaKarkoes, that even from Shavuos and further on Erev Shavuos, you already have to start being limiting certain works on the ground and certain inyonim, and all the way through till the 8th year. You don't have any certainty that you're going to have what to eat, because you're not allowed to sow and you're not allowed to make any avedas karka that you normally do with the land klalu klal. At the far kommt that a mensch has to be how they call it boiteach in the Eibishter boiven miuchat. Well, it's brought down to klal. The whole Indian in Eretz Yisrael was avedas adoma. It's well known when the Eibishter took Eden into Eretz Yisrael, the Ika was the Indian of working the ground and bringing all the payers and the crops which were promised in Eretz Yisrael to this day. Still, when I say in this day, which is still the Eimek HaGolas Rachmanin Klal. And as HaGolas has never been in the history of Yidden like it is here in Eretz Yisrael. But prior to the whole Indian of the Golas, then the fruits in Eretz Yisrael, and even shortly after, the Chum, the Bai Sheni, even in this man from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Chaver of Talmidov, that's brought down in the Masechta Brachos that the payers were miraculously great and unbelievable here in Eretz Yisrael. And it's even brought down that if a person ate certain payers, they would make him shikker. They could make him lose his das, lagamre, mirev, the tremendous power that there was in the payers. And the tavua was amazingly great, and each little shakad of wheat had so many kach inyonim inside it. Was ein l'shayir l'tayir was brought down and filled in the Gemara. But the Gemara is already a document which was prepared in this man HaGolah. At Afar, we see that the Indian of Eretz Yisrael is the whole hanhoge in Eretz Yisrael of the Tvuos, and that was one of the Ika promises when they get to coming into Eretz Yisrael. At Afar, the Ika Aveda was in Eretz Yisrael was the Avedas Akarka, the Indian for growing payers, and Tvuos l'rei. So we find that the Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos in Perek Sheni, where the Gemara reckons out over there what the names are given to the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. That's one on that our sages gave the six Sidrei. And the Mishnah, they gave them names, like special names based on a pasuk. And so it's put down over there that the Indian, certain of the names are connected with the Indian from Emunah. And there's a taser over there. The taser says that when a mensch plants in the ground, he doesn't know what on earth is going to happen. He doesn't know for sure that it's going to grow. He doesn't know, and even if it does, if it's going to be successful. And therefore, taser brings a lotion that he's boiteach that when he actually sows, how do you call it? In other words, that the whole inyan of Avedis Karka is based on the inyan of Bitochen, that you trust in the Eivishter, that if you do a Zah action, then you trust that it's going to be good. But ain't you don't have any, how do you call it, a signed document that it's going to in effect be that way. So the answer is that you do. You do really have a signed document, and that's the Torah. The Torah promises a Yid that if he does, according to the Torah, then he will have all the unbelievable brachas we see in this week's Behar Bechukosai. However, that's inyanim which are in ruchnius advarim, and the mensch being as he is, a gashmi, then he's got to have a certain strength in himself, and he relies entirely on those promises. That's called pitochen. He doesn't see it by Regel. And the whole inyan of Eretz Yisrael is based, the whole parnasa in Eretz Yisrael is based on boiteach b'boirei lomin. However, the inyan for Shemitah is even more than that. It's boiteach. In the 6th year, in a way that you're going to have a ribui tvua in the 6th year. And that's what the Eivishter says, that the 6th year will produce you enough for the rest of the 6th year, for the 7th year, and for the 8th year. And in the Zman HaYovel, it's going to have to produce you for more. It's going to have to produce you for 4 years. Because there's one on the 7th Shemitah and the Yovel follows immediately the 7th Shemitah. 2 years of Isa Avedis Karka and Menucha Mikol Einyonim, 2 years in a row, the 7th Shemitah and the 50th year, which is the Yovel. So come to us that the whole inyan of Shemitah says the Kli Yokah is based on the inyan from Bitochen. It's based on the Emunah, but Emunah in a way that it is boiteach b'be'er olam. You trust, and albeit you have a certain document in which to trust, you don't actually see it per puyah. And that was one of the inyanim of the man. And that's how we see that the man was in his eye, and it was miyom el yaim, and the Eibusha gave it in such a way that if you tried to keep it to the next morning, then it went bad on you. In other words, that all you had was dvar yoim yoimoi. As they state in the Torah, you had one piece for this day, and you had to be boiteach b'boirei olam, and that you have the next day. That was the seder by the man. And the inyan is that the Yidden were in the midbar, and they didn't see b'derech ha'arogi or b'derech ha'teva what they're going to hold out from. And b'frat, after the Gezerah and the Meraglim, that they were there for another 38 and a half years, but they come to the 40 years altogether in the midbar. But just to be draining around in a midbar like that midbar was, and to be able to live and be mishkayim, well, that's an ongoing there. So the truth of the matter is that once the Eibusha brings you down to Israel, he expects you to live by because and therefore every now and then he says you got to just leave the whole Shemitah, the whole Karka behind, and you just got to live a whole year of being devoted to his inyanim, the Hainu learning Torah and doing other good Sachen that don't take you away from the Vekas in Kedusha, like normal working the Karka does. And that's what Rabbi Shimon Tained, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he says in the Gemara, if you Zoreya and Chodesh, you had to put your sow and you'll plow and you reap that. When are you going to have time to learn? I tell you, that's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that's what he Tained in the Gemara Masechet Bracha. And so the fire once every 7 years, the Eibusha says, everybody becomes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai v'chaveiro. And it's not just for the 7th year, it's part of the 6th year, and for that matter, the promise goes on into the 8th year, even though in the 8th year you can already start working, come over. And in fact, it follows, says the Kli Yokah, that the whole inyan of the Shemitah is the chizik of Yidden, as they are the center of the creation in the inyan for Bitochen, the inyan for Bitochen in HaKodesh Baruch. And that is a Inyan Ikri and Yesoidi in the whole Inyan of Yidden. And that's what you might call their message and their dogma to the world. And therefore we find that there's a difference between Bitochen and Emunah. Why we pointed out that Bitochen is a very special Inyan, and it's got another name apart from faith, from Emunah. And the Ramban's got a famous treatise that he wrote called Shara Bitochen, or Kuntras HaBitochen, and the Ramban says at the beginning of that Kuntras, he said that everybody, somebody who is a Boiteach, he for sure believes in the Eibishter, that's for sure. But not everybody who believes in the Eibishter has the koyach to trust in him. He's at the Ramban. So for that we see that trusting and believing two inyanim. So comes again the Rebbe in the famous Sikha, the Chelik Gimel, or the Lekut Sikha, the Rebbe Melech Moshiach. But again, it's a behemshit to the whole inyan of the four kittas, you know, the four kittas on the banks of the Yam Suf, four groups, and they're all saying different in Yanim and different things and this and that. And one of them happened to hit the nail on the head, and one of them said that maybe, well, it didn't mamish hit the nail on the head, maybe we should jump into the water, but that wasn't mikoyach atik v'toiv kolkach. And then the Avish said, no, what you got to do is just go ahead, just march into the sea and go ahead where you're supposed to be going. So comes along the river, oh, that's times when that just jump into the sea, we should do it. How's it? And not only that, I mean, all Yidden were ma'aminim b'Hashem, they must have been, they saw all the Nisim, and they were still just a few days out of Mitzrayim. Ella said the Rebbe, there's a difference between Emunah and Bitochen. And Bitochen is necessary dafki when you can't see any in B'derech HaRogil or B'derech HaTeva, how it's going to be good. In other words, that emes of Bitochen. I mean, there is a level of Bitochen brought in certain places where you do see certain ways that it could be in, but then there's a chance that you'll hang your mind in them, and therefore it's not emes of Bitochen. It's Bitochen of a lo regama. And the emes from Bitochen is when you don't see any possibility, begolui or beteva, that it's going to be the way you hope it to be, the way you want it to be. And afu pikein, you boteach and you zicha, and you give yourself away, betwikif bitochen, that's going to be a certain good. And the person who had that big moment, and he brought that as a hamshocha to all the Yidden, that was Nachshon ben Amina Adov, that he jumped into the water, but bitochen gomer that efes time. Even though there's a cloud of an ain't same chinal nes, but he can't just rely on Nisim. He didn't rely on Nisim. He just knew that one way or another we've got to get there. And the Bitochen in Hashem tells us we're going to do it. We're going to do it. It's going to be good. And the fire just went into the water as Kigange. And that's like two opposites. On the one hand you can't do that, and yet on the other hand you can. And that's like the Inyan. So we see that Bitochen is higher than Emunah b'Inyan. That the person is positive, le'atzmai, and the father, the Talmud Tzedek brings down. And there's a difference of opinion. The truth is, amongst the great grammaticians, what is the root word of the word bitochen? And so there's one set of people who say that the root word of the word bitochen is the word bitach, with a base, bitach. And that's a word in its own right. It's like a root of a word in Lashon Kodesh in its own right. And others say no. Others say that the root word of the word bitochen is the word toch, tes, ches. It's two letters opposite way around. Tes, ches, and toch means to stick something on with mortar, like when it's written there by the house. It gets you had to get negoim in the house. It's written you have to peel the mortar off the house. Toch es habayis, and you have to spread the house with mortar. It's written over there, toch es habayis. So what is toch? Toch means something you stick on and becomes part of the inyan. So therefore they want to say that bitochen means that you stick yourself on to the Eibishter. You literally, you just stick yourself with a glue on the Eibishter, and you say, I'm not letting you go, I'm not going away here unless it gets good. In other words, that you become, as it were, part and parcel, literally, of the Eibishter himself. You stick onto him in a way that he can't, as you might say, cholila v'cholila, shochel you up. Well, that's one of the inyanim from this famous story, Masechta Tainis, when they get to Choyne HaMa'agel, you know, the one he stood in the circle. And he said he's not going out until it goes rain. Well, that's a chutzpah, Hashem Yishmor, Lasot Tavak Zeh, of Rabbi Shimon Bar Shattach. He was the Rosh Sanhedrin. He said anybody else it would have been a chutzpah, but not by Choyne HaMa'agel. By him it's like, he's like a ben, amit chatei lifnei aviv, he's like a ben that he does something naughty and he gets what he wants from his tata. You know, like the famous story about the Divrei Chaim, when he was a little boy, he said to his father that he wants an apple. His father said, no, it's not good for you to have an apple right now, I'm not giving you an apple. So the Divrei Chaim went over to the apple, he picked it up and he started making a bracha in a loud voice. Yeah, Baruch Atah, and he said the Eibishter's name. So his father had no choice but to run over and stuck the apple into his hand. He shouldn't make a bracha leva. He shouldn't make a bracha leva Torah, chas v'sholem. So that's like a ben ha-mishchatei lifnei aviv. So so it's brought down in the Zohar Kodesh that Choyne HaMa'agel, that he literally held the Eibishter's hand. He was able to hold the Eibishter's hand, Kaviyachol, and lead him. Kaviyachol, it's a very amazing statement in the Zohar Kodesh. And that's the inyan, says the Tzemel Tzedek of Emes of Bitochen, Toch Es Habayis. You become stuck on, with a base, Bita. So according to those authorities, the Bitachon is a small root word of two letters, Toch. And the base is like an activity, it's not part of the Yetzirah root. Auch upon him, Pisa, Bitochen is a gewaltige koyach, radical, it's l'mayla mim medida v'agbola, and it's even in a zamatzu, which you don't see any way, l'chera, b'terech hateva, as it's can sein good, and you don't have any sibas, v'ka'itza b'zeh. And the fast brought down from the Friedrich Rebbe, a ganze Bier, when he had to Yosef HaTzadik, that Yosef HaTzadik asked the Sarah Mashkim to mention him. And so it's brought that he left in prison for another 2 years because he asked the Sarah Mashkim, and he shouldn't have relied on Bosav Adam, and particularly after Shoyim, but the whole, as Rashi brings it down, Sopash Vayiga. Sopash Vayesh, I'm sorry. He did the right thing. He just made it clear. He saw a guy that was going to be meeting Pare, and he asked him to mention it to Pare. It's a justifiable thing to make it clear. What's it? We say that Emes of Bitochen on the part of a person like Yosef, he should have had a Zah Bitochen. He didn't make him with anything, and he just, even though he didn't see how it was going to happen, he should have been Batuach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he would be, it was at good time, and it was built Sophic that he would be released for Chulever. Therefore, Yosef HaTzadik, Milanu God will be men. So says the Kli Yokah, that's the whole inyan, that a Shemitah is to be ma'urad the inyan from Bitochen, and also Kemuvan, the Klal Yisrael, Emunah. So you might say, well, what's for a mitzvah is there in Bitochen? I mean, who told us we have to have Bitochen? I mean, what's for a mitzvah it was? I mean, there's a mitzvah in the Torah, Liv Toya Pakadosh Baruch. So the answer is no, but yeah. I mean, there's really no actual mitzvah which says Liv Toya Pachem. But according to all the great Kohen, except for the Baal Hilchos Gedolah, there's a mitzvah to believe in the Eibishter. The Rambam is very much in favor of it. There's a mitzvah to believe in the Eibishter. But afar, we have to say that there are certain inyonim that they're so high that they can't be written foolish of, but nonetheless they remain the Indian Yisod Sheba Yisaides. What does it the Indian? It's off. Everything is Lamaila Mitambo, Alayim Matam Vadat. Like it's brought down that the Indian from Mesilas Nefesh Amiti is not written clearly in the Torah. There's no actual tzivui mamish of the Indian from Mesilas Nefesh. Who come over in Silas, and yet nonetheless Mesilas Nefesh is one of the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya Perikov Eder. It's one of the Yesaidas of the whole Indian from Yiddishkeit. But Derek Zeh, we have to say, when I get to the Indian Abitochen, the Kliyok is Mefarish, that's the Yesod from Shemitah. So I looked up in the Sefer Chinuch, what's going on that he gives Biurim in the Indian HaMitzvahs, and the Sefer Chinuch goes, but at first, it's very well known that he was very mushpa from the Rambam also, but very much from the Ramban. He brings him the Kovet Godel, and he calls him Rabbeinu Moshe, Ben Nachman, what he refers to him with Kovet Otzum. Also upon him he brings the Ramban, that the whole Indian of Shemitah connected with belief in the creation of the world and the Anhoga of 6 days and 7, but the whole thing. And then he says, V'oid yesh lema. And he brings another time, how do you call it, the Sefer Chinuch, and he says that the Indian for Shemitah is connected with the Indian for the Emunah Ubitochen Boiz Bara. And he says that that's the Yesod of the whole Indian of Shemitah V'yoivo. And then he goes on to say that Alidei Zeh, what the mensch has bitochen, so that brings him to the Indian from Ligmoil Chesed, Ligmoil Toiv El Habriyos, to all the people around him. And that is another very important and key Indian, that if we look here in Pasha Behar, that we see that together with the Indian from Shemitah, we go into all sorts of laws that are obligatory on you if you see that your brother is poor and he needs help, okay, with it. And we see also in Yonim that you can never allow somebody to sell away his portion in Eretz Yisrael. You must always see that he get it back. And Arif is in Yonim, and then we see that the passage we brought you in one of the previous classes, but they get to 2 people going Bamidbar, and they only got 1 kitayin of water with a gun tzarich is v'chei ochicha imok, that the life of your brother is together with you. In other words, that you're responsible for the life of your brother. And those state that not many psuchim further than the Indian from Shemitah V'yoivo. And the whole parsha is connected with those in Yonim. So they say if your Yerushalayim would sit in the same way you sit for that nourisher insect, what good given. We have to learn a Musa from that, a Musa Haskell. It's a Melkumtais that the Indian of Bitochen in Hashem is connected with the Indian of Laheitiv Ima Priyoi. And therefore we see a new Indian in the Parsha, the meaning from Ribbis, that you mustn't lend money with, what do you call it? Interest. Ribbis. And so come along the great Meforshim and they say, why not? What's here? The man wants to learn. He wants to learn a little bit. He did the guy too. He wants to get a return. Just like you do work for a person, you take money. And Rashi brings that it's a very powerful yetzer in a mensch, that if he's got money and he doesn't know what to do with it, and it's sitting around, and he lends it to the other person, he wants that the money should earn something. He wants it should carry a bit of revach, whatever he wants to take revach on the money that he gave him. So state of them, the great codifiers of the mitzvahs, that's also a union that you've got to worry about the other person more than about yourself. And we'll mention it again in a few minutes, another sort of very fascinating Hagdorah, when you get to Ribbit, we see that the whole Indian of the Parsha that talks about Shemitah leads into our relations with other people. And the Pharaoh says that the Chinuch over there, in the Oid Yesh Lema, that he connects it with the Indian from Bitochen, and he says, V'hu adin b'Inyan Adstoker, that when a man has to give another person from his own pocket, what does he do? The first thing he says, but if I give away my money, what I worked on so hard, then what's going to be with Me, I'm going to be lacking. And the Far says the Sefer Chinuch that you need for that emes of bitochen. You need to trust in the Eibishter that if you look after the other person, that he'll look after you. In other words, that anything you need and everything you need, you have it al tzad ha'ezer. You have it al tzad ha'ezer too. But the Far, the inyan from bitochen leads into the whole inyan of ki yomuch achicha. If your brother drops down in the woods, you got to help him. And if he gets taken away to work for other people, you got to watch what happens with him, and you got to look after him and get him out of that. All the laws that are connected with the inyan of worrying about other people, biz, like we saw, v'chei achicha imach, that the whole life of your brother is in your hand. So from that we see that there's a gewaldige kesher between the yisod of mitzvah shmita, both according to the Kli Yorah and more primordial, the inyan of the chinuch, and the chinuch leads it into the inyan of stocker and dying for other people, helping other people by Torah. And that's a ike in the inyan of the inyan hashmita, the ike in the inyan of Yiddishkeit. As we'll soon see in a moment. So that leads us now to the pasuk that I wanted to just deal with in a little more particular way, and that is that we saw in pasuk Yutes that as a general reward for the inyan hashmita, that the eretz will give its fruit, and that everything will be fine, and yoshavtem lebetacha aliyah. Then says the pasuk, v'chi soimru, and if you will say, ma noichel b'shana hashviyah. Maybe you will say, what are we gonna eat in the seventh year? Hein loy nizra v'loy ne'asef es tevoseinu. He said, for sure we're not gonna be able to sow, or we're not gonna be able to gather our crops into a house. Ne'asef es tevoseinu. So the pasuk starts off with a kashia, and then it leads into a certainty that nonetheless we're going to do the mitzvah, because it says, the Torah puts into your mind a shaila. Maybe you will say, what are you going to eat in the Shemitah if you don't work the land? What are you going to have to eat? And then he says, oh yes, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to keep the mitzvah. Oh yes, we will. We will not sow, and we will not gather our things in. Now what does it mean we won't gather our things in? Well, that means that everything is hefker. It's well known that everything that you have, and all your land, and all the fruits, and altsting in Shemitah are what we call unownable. Because they have no owners, they're what's called hefker. If ever anybody can walk into your garden, or your orchard, or your what do you call it, your market garden, or whatever you got there, and they can just take whatever they want. And the peli is that afilu goyim connected coming. And they can take if they want the fruit, and that's part of what the chinuch says, that the etzem inyan from Shemitah means that you give everything away to other people. It's not only you just don't work, but you just say, here, everybody, it's all yours. Yeah, it's not mine, it's all yours. And afilu aneini Yehudi. I remember this is a pele. So what's the ties that the Torah puts into your mind a kashya? That says, what are we gonna eat? And then says the Eibishter, if you ask us our shaila, then shivisi es birchosi lochem b'shona hashishis. I will command my blessing to you in the 6th year. V'osus, well, that's an unusual use of the verb, es ha-tevua l'shleisha shonim, that the land will do you the tvua, for all 3 years. In other words, for what you still need in the 6th, 7th, and the 8th. So some people learn, that's much in the Teres Kohanim, that there's a shit over there that is referring to the Yovel. Because in the Yovel you got two Shmitas. You got the Shmita and the Yovel. So it's referring not to the Shishis. The Shishis you probably have enough anyway because you sowed the Shishis in the right way as usual. And if you need for the Shmita, the Yovel, and for the year afterward. However, we see that the Torah promises that you're going to have, aren't you? You're doubtless writing notes or you're just crutching away to pass the time. The Torah promises that it will bring enough on the 6th feet to have all the way through to the 9th, depending which way you learn. So is that the Eibishter asks you, puts a kasha into your mouth, and then he says, oh, don't worry about it, because I'm going to command my bracha. So it's one another. The word to command means to put energy into somebody. If you command him, then you what's called mazarez oto. You give him a command, you give him fresh energy. So tzivisi is biruchasi, my blessing is going to be very freshly commanded, and it's going to do all these good things. However, the Behar Bechukosai, what's going on, he was one of the also, he was one of the early, he was later than the Kli Yakar, and he was closer to this man of he was already after the Baal Shem Tov, and it would seem that he knew some of the Talmidim of the Maggid. Well, upon him, certain Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, that they lived also in the time of the Maggid. And he wrote a sefer called the Behar Bechukosai, and you all know the famous story about the Behar Bechukosai. That's all brought down in the Sikha. You got Chabadniks. It's brought down in the Sikha from the Rebbe, yeah, in Chelik Aleph, I think it is, or Chelik Beis. It's brought down, and when he went to the mikvah on Friday afternoons, and when he came out, he was a head and shoulders higher than when he came out than what he went in, and that's the way he remained the whole Shabbos. And Moshe Shabbos, after Havdalah, he went back down again. Yeah. I think the Rebbe brings him out, the state of the Behar Bechukosai. And he came to live in Eretz Yisrael, B'sof Yoma, and he's buried in Tzfas, down near the Beis Yosef, a little bit to the side. At the Beis Yosef, that's where he's buried, the Behar Bechukosai. And he lived in a city, he was the Rav in a city called Chernovich. And the Deutschen got in there, Rahman in Itlan, and they ruined the whole city, absolutely. And there's one little building was left in the city, and that was his base medrash. The base medrash of the Behar Bechukosai, they couldn't destroy it. It's a pillar, the Mivesnish was exactly. He is the biur, but even though they raised the whole city to the ground, they left that little base medrash standing in the city of the Behar Bechukosai. So he was quite an amazing person. And the Behar Bechukosai, to say the least of it. So the Behar Bechukosai, he also goes with the fact that the Inif and the Shemitah is Koyach Emunah, and that's the basis of the, and Bitochim. But that's the Inif and Shemitah. And he says that Chas v'Sholem, to say that Yidden would ask a kasha. No Yidden would ever ask a kasha on the Eibishter. So he said, he said that's just like a lead-in. You know, the Yidden will say, oh, for sure, you know, we're going to eat, we don't have to worry, but just how's it going to happen? What way are we going to eat? So the Eibishter said, don't worry about that either. I'll command my blessing of it. Not that Yidden ask any kasha, or not that the Eibishter puts any kasha into their mouths either. Because you know the whole Indian, well, Chassidim say that a kasha is trey. It's a matter of fact when you can kasha by Chassidim. Except kasha of the Eitzahara. Maybe of them it's not, but anyway, it's Befregnishin kasha. Comes along the Rav Zushim Yanipoli. You guys have all heard the Rav Zushim Yanipoli. The Alter Rebbe is very trusted and close friend and colleague. That he got the Alter Rebbe wouldn't print the Tanya till he got his agreement, what he calls his askoma. So the Rav Zushim Napoleon, he said that I'm sorry, but that posik is a little bit in the sharp direction. The whole basis of Shemitah, we just said, was the building of the Midas HaBitochen in its fullest sense. And that's the basis of all Yiddishkeit. And it leads to the union of, like we saw in the Sefer Chinuch, worrying about other people and being devoted to them. So says Rav Zushia, he said, V'chi Seimru, if it will just occur to you for a moment, a shaila, what are we going to eat in the Shona Hashviz? Then you blow the whole thing. There's your blood. In other words, your bitochen has to be such with the pshitas that you never ask any shailas on the Eibishter, how's it going to be good? Does it just it'll be good? And you know the margin. But the two Talmidim, they came to Rav Zush and they wanted a beer, how you put up with, how you be sameach in not good things. You're still supposed to have simcha even though things are not good. And he said, I can't answer that question because I've had only good my whole life. I don't know what it means to have something which is not good. I said, Rav Zushia, if you ask a shaila, a key same man neichel, what would that you go down from your madrei and you lost it all? So then the Irish says, oi kafal, you guys have asked a kasha. I prepare all the brachas, and it would have been anyway all the brachas. Or if I tell you to do something, always it's going to be all the brachas are going to be. Are you asked a kasha? Ay, kafal, what am I going to do now? The Irish himself said he doesn't know what he's going to do now. Therefore he said, I got to I'll command my brachas. As though my brachas have said they can't do anything. They didn't have asked a kasha. But he said, I'll command my brachas, I'll force them to do it. So he said, you can understand what's for brachas, that they have to be forced to do. They said, nonetheless, they'll be good enough to keep you going. You won't have any problems, you'll have what you need. Gam b'shon hashisis, hashpiyas behar, hashmir b'yah. If you hadn't asked the shaila, you would have had ein arech. Piddly place, har b'yesem is there. And that should have been understood in its own right. I said, what are we going to do with you guys? It's like talking to a lump. You don't realize what that is. It's a whole way of understanding existence. It follows that the inner from bitochen is that there's absolutely bor, claw, and tachas and pira as it's fine good. And if you ask a shaila, then cholili horigan, you go down and nonetheless you should still look after you, but not in the way. In other words, that if he asks you to do something that does a zicher, bor, claw, that you have all the rewards that could possibly be also a result from that. Bilti kol sofik be'olam. And my middle of said, it follows that what is this whole inifan? What is this ganze inifan? Shemitah. So comes along another person that he knew the Rav Zushia, and he was a Talmud from the Rabbi Shmuel Shmelkis of Nicholsburg. And he was a brother of the Reb Pinchas Balafloa, and they were both in Talmidei Amagid, Muvhakim, and they knew the Alter Rebbe very well. The Alter Rebbe was very close with the Reb Pinchas Balafloa, and he held very much for him. He respected him very highly, and he once wrote him a letter, the Alter Rebbe, and it's printed in Sforim, that he wrote a letter to the Balafloa, the Reb Pinchas Balafloa, and he called him Moire V'Rabbi. The Alter Rebbe called him Moire V'Rabbi. So the Reb Pinchas Balafloa, he had a Eidim, he had a son-in-law, and he wrote a sefer called the Erech L'Chaim. And so Peledik Gezach, that this Talmud, he was a Talmud for the Reb Pinchas Balafloa, he was a Talmud from his brother, from the Reb Shmuel Shmelkis. And he didn't have any children, er hat nicht gehabt keine Kinder. And so he decided that he was going to divorce his wife and see if he could have kinder from some other wife, like it's written now, Pitit, the says to Halacha. He told the Reb Pinchas Balafloa that he's very sorry, but he's thinking he's going to have to divorce his daughter. So the Reb Pinchas Balafloa said to him, what? Und so, ich sagte ihm, von meiner Tochter ist kein Kind nicht da, wird beklagen nicht sein, kein Kinder. He said, if there's no children from my daughter, there's not going to be any children. Ooh, that is the most terrible for a tzaddik to say a thing like that. And so the Chaim was very, very shocked. But nonetheless, he felt that al pidin he had to do it, and he married another lady, but he never had any children. An amazing story, unbelievable. Just shows you have to be careful with the word. And well, I mean, the Rapinus Bar, he knew what he was doing. But, anyway, there at Chaim, he was a great person. He wrote a sefer, and he brings down an amazing thing. What the Alter Rebbe brings it down in Torah, and he says like that what is the whole inyan of Shemitah and the whole inyan of Bitochen? He said that is that you make from Yesh Ayin. That you are a Yesh. If in a Yesh you can only have bolas, and as long as you're a Yesh, the world's got to work according to certain things. And if you know that you have a certain thing, then you got it. But if you don't, they don't know what you're going to be doing. And even if an ayin, it's like what we had in our mind, das elin and das tachtin. The das elin says ayin, and what does lamata is? I'm sorry, lamaila is yesh and lamata is ayin. And das tachtin says that lamata is yesh and lamaila ayin. So he says that what you got to do, you got to take that yesh and give it back to the ayin. Even in your language, you say yesh and lamaila is ayin. Yeah. He said, how do you get to that ayin? By being an ayin. You got to be absolutely nothing. And he said, Berega, what you say, I want something. Oh, that's right. What are you going to do with you guys? And I once heard from Rav Mendel all of a sudden. I once heard from Rav Mendel that he said one of the first letters he got from the Rebbe back when he came out as Russian, he came over to 770. He wrote into the letter Rebbe a letter in Yiddish, and the word in Yiddish for I is ich. That's it. That's the word in Yiddish. So he began his letter with the word ich, something or other. So when he got the letter back, the Rebbe answered what he did, but the Rebbe made a little circle around the word ich, and he put an arrow down to the bottom of the page, and the Rebbe said, Hainu hayetza hora. That ich is the delicate story of the Yetzer Hara. Ich. And that is the story. The Rebbe was very kind to everybody. And the Rebbe wrote Reb Mendel of him, who Milano got him, he said. And the Rebbe answered these questions, which made a little sort of a footnote at the bottom. So the Reb Mendel said to me, he never wrote a letter ever to the Rebbe, not in Yiddish and not in Kaddish, that he ever mentioned the word I. He never mentioned ich or he. He always wrote it in such a way that he never mentioned the first person. Again, after he got such a word. Anyway, Lefi Zekum says that you got to turn the yesh into ayin, and by turning the yesh into ayin, well then you can say, well, I'm no longer a yesh. Who's running the whole thing? He's running. Yeah, das ist die Inif, Emerson Betochen. And the Father, he brings a Gemara, what the Gemara says in Masechta Kesubes, and the Gemara says, Gedoili Maise Tzadikim, Yeshim Maise Shamayim that the works and the deeds of the tzaddikim are greater than the deeds of the Eibishter in making Shemayim v'Orah. So he says that making Shemayim v'Orah, the Eibishter made from ayin into yesh. So he said that's a great thing and nobody else can do it, only the Eibishter. But he said, what do the tzaddikim do? The tzaddikim, they go from yesh back to ayin. He said, that's much harder. So, he said, the Eibishter is bleakful. The Eibishter is unlimited. He can make from ayin yesh. He can do what he likes. Oh, but once you're already locked up in the yesh, and you're a victim of the yesh, and you feel yourself as a yesh, to turn that into ayin, oh, that is an unbelievable coin. The Kaviyachol, the Eibishter doesn't do that. He waits for you to do that. And I mean, that does it the Indian, Gedei L'maisa Tzadikim, שהויפכים es hayesh la'ayin. So Milon God, the Alter Rebbe brings that mafurish in Pasha B'Shalach, at the end of Pasha B'Shalach, in Pashas in Sefer Shmoyis, right near the end, the Alter Rebbe brings it without the quotation from the Maggid. I'm sorry, the Eretz L'chaim brings it in B'Shem Mezritcha Maggid. And the Alter Rebbe brings it, in B'Fnim B'li Shem. Oh, the Alter Rebbe says that the Pshat Kedei Ma'aseh Tzadikim Yeshem Yishamayim V'Oretz is that they bring the Yesh back into the Ayin. And the Eibishter makes me Yesh Ayin. And he said by the Eibishter it's small fry. He said, oh, but Ayesh, you have to go back into a state of Ayin, that is unbelievable. If a person can do that, then in that prat he's greater Kaviyachol, even than the Kaviyachol and the Eibishter. I tell them, we see that there are certain Yesodis in Chassidus that they were the property of the world. The Maggid and the Baal Shem Tov brought them into the world, and they became the property of the far. Sometimes you meet up with them in the words of great peoples, when they were Mikabel from the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. Yeah, even though we find them Mefurish in Chassidus, will be Yesa Seis, will be Yesa Biur, yeah, Barichas Abiyah, etc. And the fact that same meaning what Reb Zusha said, that the Ina from Bitochen, that's what the Rebbe brings down there in the Sikh over there in Pasha. Well, it's in the same Pasha B'Shalach. I think the Rebbe does. Is also that's a Yisod Godel. It wasn't the Ina Bitochen. And the fact, based on that whole Ina, we just before we complete the Shir, what everybody says, well, Baruch Hashem, at least he's mentioning that it's about to take some sort of a move towards an end. And we'll just mention Ainian, which backs up the whole basis of the Shir in the Zohar Kodesh, where we're just coming from Lag Ba'ema, well, that's the Yom Elul from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he is the author of the Zohar Kodesh, which was incomparably greater in size and in content than what we actually have Lamaisa. As it went on, what we have Lamaisa is only just a few lines compared to what was the actual original text of the Zohar, but unfortunately it was hidden away for generations and it got lost. And the fact, Rabbi Shimon, however, wrote the Zohar Kodesh Bishman that he was in the cave in the Meira when he hid, and the whole Arichas is brought down in the Gemara Masechta Shabbos when he fled from the Romans. And in Pasha Behar, there's a piece in the Zohar Kodesh which begins with that pasuk, V'chi seimru ma'anecha b'shana ha-shvi. And then it brings B'tzivisias pilchasi b'shana ha-shvi, Pinkta Dotzot. Says the Zohar Kodesh begins, and it says that is what is written in Tehillim, the pasuk in Tehillim, which says, B'tach b'Hashem v'asei toiv shchein eretz ura'ei, with an ayin ura'ei emunah. So pasuk, you should trust in the Eibishter, you should do good, you should dwell in the ground, literally dwell on the earth, and you will literally pasteurize emunah. You'll draw like flocks. As they have a famous pasuk, and the Friedrich Rebbe, when he went to visit Chicago, the famous peak of Chicago, he said a man of Chassidus on them pasuk. On them pasuk in Shnas Tovshin Beis, the famous Maimah from the Friedrich Rebbe on that pasuk. Bring the Zohar Kodesh on this, V'ki Sheimu Ma'anecha B'tona HaShviyah, bring the Zohar on that pasuk. And it gives a whole Arichas Abiyah, what many are the Meforshim, what they're mishtadl to find what is the Abiyah and the Ramaz and the other great Meforshim are mamik in that whole in the Zohar. Suffice it to say that the Zohar Kodesh says that what does it mean? It should have been written, Asei Toiv u'b'tachba Hashem. The first of all, you have to do good, and that's a sign you believe in the Eibishter and you trust in Him. Why is it written B'tach b'Hashem v'asei toiv? That must be something very special. If you already trust in the Eibishter and you trust Him, then asei toiv doesn't just mean stam. Now it says the Zohar Kodesh that Asay Toiv means the Inyan from Stocker. And it means the Inyan of helping a zweite Mensch. And it says that the Inyan from Betochen and Stocker, like the Sefer Chinuch says, come together because you don't say to yourself, if I give away what I got, what's going to be with me? Now, if you ask what's going to be with me, then you're not in the midas habitochen and you're not doing good. Das heißt nicht Toiv. Toiv is when you don't worry about yourself and you track no wegen der Zweite. Das ist Toiv. He steht dort in the Zohar Kodesh. And das ist die Inyan von Tanya. If you look in Tanya, you'll see that's what the Alter Rebbe said throughout the whole Tanya. And that's what he says in the Zohar Kodesh, that that's a connection between the Shemitah, which is Betach B'Hashem, and all the mitzvahs that got to do with the Inyan of looking after other people in the Parashah, and why we say, Koil the meaning from Ribbi. Because Ribbis is the same thing. You say, what was it getting killed? I'm not going to have anything out of it. Which time near my EAT? Why aren't I permitted to earn something from it? And it's brought down in Sfarim. There's a famous medrash that, you know, when Yechezkel Navi saw the vision of all the what do you call it? All the atoms, all the dry bones. You know the famous vision of Yechezkel Navi? And the Abbot said to him, he watched and he brought them all to life. So it's written there was one of them that didn't get up. Out of all the huge Hamon of people that were there. And Yechezkel said, what's with this guy? Why didn't he get up? So the Abbot said he can't get up because he was a Malvi Baribi. He used to loan with interest. And er kann nicht aufstehen. Aber vielleicht das soll schon was hat gekannt. No, is it? We see that the Inyan, the Rizal brings down the time for the creation of the world. One of the time we mentioned in the Divrei Arizal, it's not sure that that's mamish the time for the Rizal, but Al-Kaponim state that the whole reason why the Rizal made the world was laheitiv libruyo, to bring good to his creature, that he would make another creature and he would cause him good. And the Mittler Rebbe says in Amayim that that's no gay, and mamish in the etzem time abriya, the Kaviochel, the Eivishter had to have another entity, and he had to give it good. Ki teva hatoiv laheitiv, ad kedekah. The teva of good is it has to do good. Ad kedekah. So the Mittler Rebbe, this is amazing. Your eyes, shoulder, and stalks when you read a thing like that. And Amir begins in a sefer, also a Talmud for the Remendel Vitebska. I saw in a sefer, and he brings down that therefore the Inyan from Ribbis, if you lend your money with Ribbis, then you go against that old cloud that the Eibishter made the world laheitiv lebruyov, then you as that creature, when he did it all for you, you're going to do that for the other guy. You've got to live the same way. And if you don't, then you're going against the whole Inyan of the whole Inyan of the Bria. And you're causing the whole Bria, Rahmanian and Klan, to break down. Because the whole time of the Bria was to help the other one. And the fact that now you understand, I once told a man in Bnei Brak, and he said that he's going to print that in the cards, and he's going to give it round in his shul. So I told him that the Baal Shem Tov said it could be you come down and live 70, 80, 90, 120 years old. And you live in the world a whole number of years, and you do Torah mitzvahs, all thing, but the whole reason you came down was to do one favor for another Jew. That's the whole reason you came down into the world. With all your learning, with all your davening, with the whole stink, and you tell that to a misnagid, he'll go crazy. Now, the whole reason he came down the world was to do a favor for another person. When I told this guy, he was an influential person, he said that he's going to print that up and he's going to give it round in little cards in his shul, and he did. They should realize that the whole reason he came down into the world was to do a favor for another person. And my man come to say that that's the whole Inyan. Laheitiv lebruyov is the Chamer of the Inyan. That's the sort of the whole creation. And you've got to live that way. If you don't, then you hold up the creation. You break down the function of the world. And the whole Zohar Kodesh says that the Shemitah is bitochen. Bitochen has to bring to something. You can't just have bitochen. Bitach b'Hashem v'yasei tov. So the Zohar Kodesh says, want him to do good. I mean, if you already trust in the Hebrew, want him to do good for Yenim, nicht for sie. You have to do for the other person. And the whole Indian of the Shemitah is that. It steht dort in the Zohar Kodesh. Ba'ad Kerikach, it brings a story. The Zohar Kodesh brings a story, an amazing story. And it brings Behemshik to that Maimah, the Zohar, and it's written to Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chia. They were two Talmidim Mufakim of Rabbi Shimon, that they were going in the way. And they came to a mountain where there was a bit of shade there, where you could have a bit of a rest, because they were traveling in a difficult passage. And all of a sudden they see two Yidden. And when they see that these guys came along and they've been on a much longer journey and they're all fagged out. And all of a sudden one Yid looks into his bag to take out, to eat some things and to drink some things. And he sees that he must have lost it on the way, but his bag is empty, hot cornish. Nothing to eat, nothing to drink, cornish, he's absolutely lazy. So all of a sudden, these two guys are there, and comes along another Yid, another guy shows up, and so this Yid says, just tell the guy, he says, oh, give a cook. You see what happened to me? I'm left here, I have mamish cornish was to essen. So this other Yid says, hey. He says, here you go. He digs into his bag and he takes out what he's got. So the Druta Yid says to him, hey, what are you doing, man? I said, well, he said, I've got it in my bag, I'll give him. He said, well, wait a minute. He said, don't do that, you're not going to have what to drink. So So this guy says to him, well, what's with you? You should have given him. You should have given him. And he said, oh, no, I can't do that. I got to look after myself. I mean, if I give him, I won't have I'll be able to live. I couldn't give him. He said, you shouldn't do that, what you're doing. So the Yid said, oh, yes, I am. And he pulls out all his stuff and he gives it to the guy. So the guy said, well, listen, I don't want to eat yours. He said, yes. He said, yeah, I want you to take it. He said, it's all Beseder. What's going to be with me? Dave should tell him. Hashem will hold me somewhere or another, but he said, I can't look at you in a Zamata. So Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chia, are watching this whole thing. So all of a sudden, Rabbi Yossi says to Rabbi Chia, it was Rabbi Yossi. He said, you know something, we must watch these guys, because the Aves is going to do a nest. I promise you, the Aves is going to do a nest for this guy that he gave his food away to this fellow. The Aves is going to do a nest. So Rabbi Chia said, well, he did a good thing. Who's he's going to do a nest? Yeah. So in the meantime, this guy says he's going to rest a bit. And he rests under one tree, and these guys rest under another tree, and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Chia, they're resting somewhere else. All of a sudden, into the tree with this guy that he gave away the food, all of a sudden this huge snake comes out of a branch in the tree and starts heading down at the sleeping person. And a big snake, it's moving at high speed. So all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere, and a lashon in the Gemara, which is not clear exactly what it is. The Ramaz teaches a Chaya Ruah, and the Ramak, he teaches that it was a sheretz, sort of like certain, little animals that they kill snakes. What do they call them?
Scorpion. Scorpion.
Yeah, something like that. There's a special sheretz that kills snakes. Anyway, he comes in, and all of a sudden, there's a big light of fire surrounds the sheriff, and he's like Superman. There's a big light of fire surrounds him. He just goes to the snake, and in a minute, the whole snake is laying absolutely dead on the ground, and the little animal, or the Kairua, the big animal, according to the Ramaz, disappeared. It just disappears out of the picture. So Rabbi Chia said to Rabbi Yossi, you see, Rabbi Yossi said to Rabbi Chia, see, I told you there was going to be a net. So the guy didn't know about it. He was asleep. He didn't know what had happened. So in the end, he wakes up, and Rabbi Chia goes over to him, and Rabbi Chia tells him what happened. So he says to him, Rabbi, why did that happen to me? You know, he said, because you gave the food to this other guy. Oh, that's why it happened. Then comes on the Mephoshah, and they say, what on earth, you know? But why would a snake want to get him if he did such a tremendous mitzvah? Why would a snake come for him? And there had to be a nes on the day, mamish a nes. And ain't saying a nes, and therefore we don't want to do a nes. In lo tzrichim. And the father, the great Mephoshah say that if you look carefully into the Zayah, it's apparent that this person, he was guilty of something, done some very terrible avera at some time in his life. And it reached a moment that Min HaShamayim, they were going to punish him, and it brought down that the Harikot, the Samach Mem, was originally a snake. Harikot, the S-A-T-A-N, he was originally a snake. He came in the form, and he said he's not Mavater, he wants his prize. And therefore he came in his original form. He came in the form of a big snake, and he said he's right that this guy did this and this avera, and he's going to take him. And in the schus of that tzedakah, what this guy did, this little animal was created miraculously, and it saved him. And there's a whole big aricha that how come there was a nes, why do you have to have a nes? And so some people want to say that Enoch was a nes. But tzedakah is so essential. I saw one of them before she was there. But tzedakah is so essential in the creation. We just pointed out that it's essential in the whole makeup of the creation. That's almost like teva. That if somebody who does tzedakah, even if things happen to him in a miraculous form, it's not really a ner. It's like nature. It's like it's built into the situation of the creation. So even though it's a nes, like Abeno, or like every day, that's a right thing, and it had to happen that way, but ain't kilo, ain't lahara crazy. We see how unbelievably greatly the Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, not the Rebbe Mehamna, not the Zohar Mamish, that he connects the whole inyan of Shemitah. And the whole idea of Ki Seimu, what are we going to do if we ask a Shaila? That you have to realize that you got to have Bitochen, Bitchu, Basher. So I looked up in Rashi over there, in Philip. And Rashi says, Mamish, an amazing thing. Rashi says that you must never say, when you're giving tzedakah, you must never have a philosopher machshava, what's going to be with? What's going to be with me? And then Rashi says, Ri'ei emuna, that al yedei the emuna, you added the Eibishter, Ri'ei, you get plenty of parnasa. In other words, the Eibishter give you back, and he give you back X amount. So I don't want to tell you guys any more stories, because you'll say, we never finished. He said he was about to finish, and he doesn't. But I can tell you a story. Once I was in South Africa collecting stock. I was once in South Africa collecting stock here, and I went into a guy, and he had a small business. He gave me a chayzit, and it was quite a bit of money for him. He gave me something like 360 rand or something. It was, in those days, it was a bit of a matbea. Nowadays, it's nothing. So thanked him very warmly with the whole thing, and the church, and the midnight. We spoke a bit, and I gave him advice on the whole mountain. And I walked out into the streets of Johannesburg, and I went my way. He said, and I met him in a shul about 2 weeks later. And he said, Rabbi, I said, after you came, he said, I couldn't afford that 360 rand. I didn't really have it. He said, but I gave you. He said, about 10 minutes after you left, I got a call. And he said, somebody made a big order that I made 10 times as much as 360 rand. He said, somebody out of nowhere called me up, and they ordered a whole bunch of sclera from me. He said, 10 minutes after you walked out. So you might say, well, that's a nest. So that's what this refers on the Zohar. He said, it's not, it's a nest, but it's not. It's part of the world, because that's what the world built around. It's an amazing thing. Unbelievable. And that's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a quote from the author of the Zohar Kodesh. You guys went to his tzia on Lag Baima, and you saw the unbelievable Gilui Alakus that goes on up there. Mamish the Gilui Alakus Pamuchas. Mamish. Well, that's what he says about the Shemitah. That's what he says about Bitochen. And that's what he says about Ki Seimu. Yeah, and so he says, at the end, the Zohar Kodesh says, remember, once again, like the Be'er Mayim Chaim says, it's not so much a kasha, it's just like we want to know, how's it gonna work? In kashas nit do. So you must never be maharer. Therefore the Arizal, he's also a machutin from Lag Baima, because he's the one who brought the whole Kabbalah down to our generation, to our day. And the Arizal said that the whole reward that you get in the world come for giving charity is only according to the simcha with which you gave it. As they state in the Shara Mitzvahs from the Arizal. That he said, if you give tzedakah and your mouth is a little bit down, he said, you gave the tzedakah and the other people, they got it, and they needed the money. He said, but you missed a bit on the game. But if you're happy and you smile and you do it b'simcha, you have a reward, bilti shum safik, and a schar godel bein b'zeh ho'ilma, bein b'ilma, abo, as they schreibt der Rizal. That's in the Kuda then, and we see that the whole Inyan of Shemitah teaches us the Inyan from Bitochen, meaning, as the Erech HaChaim says, you make the world from Yesh into Ayin. You live in a world of absolute nothingness. You don't know where it's all happening and how it's all working. And the Eibush Tavki makes that into the Emes Yesh. And it becomes a world of Elokus, a world of Alism Mayla Lamata. It becomes the Elamayla Yesh, Elamata Ayin, and you live in a world of Gilui Alakus. And Mamel Gedel Tzedakah, Shemikarev says, that's a Geula. And like we see, Bekol Ha'oretz, Bekol Eretz Achuzaschem, Geula Titnu La'oretz. Some of the great Mephoshim say that means it's going to come to Geula Shlema, take it from Iyar, Mamish, B'schus HaShmitas, V'Hayevelez. And the Rebbe Rashab says in the Maimon on that passage, that he says that it's all talking about Liosik Lovei, and take it from Iyar Mamish, we'll see the Gilui of the Kiyum of all these unbelievable Vinyanim that are brought to the beginning of Behar Bechukosai, and audio Temi there, take it from Iyar Mamish, Yachad with the Rebbe Mashiach Baroshain.
Amen. See how the name of Rabbeinu Malach Mashiach Elam Bad. See how the name of Rabbeinu Malach Mashiach Elam Bad. See how the name of Rabbeinu Malach Mashiach Elam Bad.